We are back at South by Southwest Interactive. I'm Kimberly Dykman, and you're watching Web 2.0.tv, the place to find some of the biggest brains in the interactive world. And we've got another big old brain right here, David Altounian. I love your last name, by the way. I don't know, it makes me think of Charlie Tuna. I love that. And he's got a brilliant company called iTagIt, and I'm going to let you spill the beans on it because it's a brilliant concept, very helpful. So, iTagIt. Tell me about it.
So iTagIt's a destination for helping people organize, showcase, value, and figure out how to monetize the things that they're passionate about. Any kind of an item. People can have cars, antiques, autos. We have people that put recipes online. And based on putting the items in, there's all kinds of actions and things they can do with it. Mm-hmm. They can keep it private and just use it and get the value and find out how much their things are worth. They can actually share them with their friends, or they can post them to sites to sell, such as eBay or Craigslist. So that's the premise behind it, is helping people get value out of the items they have.
Interesting.
And that's what we built.
So this sounds like one of those ideas that you're in the shower and you're like, oh, I've got it. I know how to organize the house, honey. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What's the backstory to this coming to fruition?
So there's actually two different things, I'll say three different things that kind of drove it together. The first was that I was back in school. I went back and got my MBA, and I was working on a project to look at gaps in business. Try to think of the areas where people needed services that would help add more value. So we were looking at the gaps. And I was taking this class. At the same time, my mother-in-law passed away, and she had a whole locker full of old stuff that we had no idea what it was worth, and where, what the things were that were in there. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing was we were building this product, the company I was with, that actually allowed people to move around and use the computers. And so what I realized when I was doing this was that the first part, the big gap, is people's net worth is made up of three things. It's cash, which everybody knows what the value is. It's the big ticket items like a home and a car.
Right.
Again, easy to find the value and easy to find buyers. And then there's everything else. And there's not a product to help service the everything else. So if I have a collection of rare books, how do I find what the value of those are, or who cares about those? Right. And the person that actually collects rare books is probably a better buyer for me than somebody on eBay just happens to see my rare book. So that was the first part. The second part was, as we went through and decided to use our site to kind of test the theory, we found in my mother-in-law's collection things like a James Michener signed book, pieces of space shuttle memorabilia that were really interesting, and they're online on the site. And we realized getting that stuff out and exposing it was a unique opportunity, and so that's how we started the site and the company. And it actually drove the social networking part of it, because originally the idea was you'd put your items in and you would use it as an online bank for your items. And what we realized was that if I found the space memorabilia, I wanted to share that with everybody. Right. And so that drove the social networking part.
It's so brilliant, because so many folks, it's when something's happened in a negative sense that they think, oh, I should have kept track of that, or I wish I knew that, or they come across, they have a situation where they maybe inherit something, or they're now responsible for items or a collection, or things that they're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And so you've made this so it's helping them organize. It's also helping them, I don't know, maybe put all that information out there so they can share with their own family. Like, look what your grandparents left behind. I think that's sort of brilliant. But that whole idea of putting it out there, people want to tell their stories. Like, you'll never believe that I have an original Beatles album. People just like to talk about that.
That's true.
But their families just want to hear it so many times. So when you put it out there in the social realm, I think that's awesome.
Well, the other thing that was interesting was when we first started, people would say things like, oh, I'll just get a video camera and I'll video my stuff. Because that's what people have done to inventory their items. But the problem is, it's static and you can't do anything. So I'll give you a perfect example. My mother-in-law's stuff has now started to be archived, and we're getting the backstories and putting them in on our site. But now we've shared it with my kids, and my kids can actually go in and look at it. My kids are never going to look at a videotape, but they know how to use Facebook, and they know how to use the web, and they'll go in and look at stuff. And heaven forbid should we pass, they'll be able to do that with their kids. And so not only is it a living archive of that item, a living electronic record, but it can be shared and moved around to people. And it doesn't have to be family. It can be friends. You can share it with your insurance agent.
I was just going to say, that actually now becomes a tool to help the folks that are involved in you on the professional level, either within your company, your organization, your insurance agent, your attorneys.
Yep.
your accountant, for that matter?
We actually use it in our office for inventory control of our PCs. So everybody in my office has access to an inventory collection, and it's only the people in my office, and they put in the information about the PCs on their desk, and our administrator just prints out an HTML report, and we have it for our insurance agent. So instead of having to have one person go off in inventory, it's just a shared collection, and very simple.
Oh, fantastic. So you actually kind of divvied up the responsibility.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the thing about the site that makes it more than just a way to capture stuff is we have about 500 collections so far, or categories, and users can create their own. And so based on the type of item you have, we ask all the right information. So if it's a computer, we ask about the amount of memory, the size of the hard drive. If it's wine, we'll ask about the vineyard and the age of the bottles. And if it's art, it asks about the artist and history on the artist. And on top of having that specific request of information, we also have content that we provide. So if you're looking at a car, all the advertising and all the blogs are about cars. And everything is linked to the item. And users can create their own categories based on categories we have. So if you have a category for cars, for example, and you want red Corvettes, you can create a category called red Corvettes, and all of that information that we ask and we provide follows with a new category, right?
Oh, that's brilliant.
So yeah, and then it becomes public to everybody else. And they can, not the items, but the category and the questions. So we made it very, very scalable for users.
So how do you guys market yourself? How did you get your name out there? I mean, I know you've been with Motion, and you got a good name for yourself anyway, but how do you get this new concept out there and market yourself?
Well, the first thing we did was, I think we followed down the same path everybody else tried to do, which is pay-per-click and search engine marketing, and some of that has helped a little bit. The biggest thing we found is we've opened up our site to be indexed, and so if you have an item that's public, now when people do a search on that item, we come right away. So a perfect example is we have a person that collects, they actually are a dealer of sports memorabilia. If you go into Google and type 2007 Patriots memorabilia for the Super Bowl, we're on page 1, and it's that guy's item. And that is actually, this is, I think, the essence of social networking, in that the user's content is actually driving our word of mouth. And that's really picked up.
You up there high on the SEO charts.
We actually now
without having to pay for it.
Without having to pay. And we have some dealers that actually figure that out. They're putting stuff on without us doing it because the rankings are so high. And so it's been very interesting. And the more content they put in, the more Google values it, and the higher it goes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now they may turn around and say, we want stock in the company, blah blah blah.
Well, for the right price, I think we can do that.
That is awesome. So what do you see? Obviously this is a relatively new concept and new with your company, but what's new for 2008 or 2009? Of course, you just new 2.0, 3.0, 7.0, whatever. I mean, we keep looking ahead.
Yeah, I think, my view of Web 2.0, I think, is very different than some of the other people that I've seen being interviewed. And that said, I think it's very clear to me that Web 2.0 has three things. It has to be user-generated content of some sort. Number two is it has to be easily discoverable, like the example of the SEO. And third is it has to be mashup. It has to have other elements. So in our case, for example, we mash up with Facebook. If you have a Facebook application, every time you put something in a public collection, it shows up in your mini feeds and your collection show on Facebook. I think the next version of this and where it's going to go is actually the human interaction and services. So you can think about any of these sites. Take Flickr, for example. It's interesting to be able to share it, but how do you take the photos out of Flickr and make them really usable? That bridge hasn't been built yet. And I think that's the next. For us, everybody, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a single person that doesn't have a garage full of stuff. How do I get that stuff in the site? Things like this will help, but people aren't going to go out and buy these individually. So I think there's services now that are going to come up around it that are going to support these web. There's still 2.0 apps, but the Web 2.0 applications. So I think that's the next evolution, is having the services and the human participation catch up with these great things that are being built. And I think that's the next year to 2 years. Great opportunities for people that want to do those kind of services.
That sounds fantastic. You sound so jazzed about what you're doing, and I can see why. You've got your own little category.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of folks doing what you do by any means, and it just sounds exciting. Do you have family involved in this?
No, I don't.
No?
No. Well, other than
they're all
let me
clients
tell
now,
you,
right?
we have wish lists is one of
Okay.
our features, and I told my kids I wasn't buying them anything for Christmas that wasn't on their wish list, and I tag it. So I have them involved that
really?
way.
Okay.
It's force feeding your kids to participate in your business enterprise.
Oh,
so.
that is brilliant.
But yeah, that's been about the extent of it.
Well, thank you for taking the time. I mean, I don't know if there was anything else you needed to share because you
I think
just
it's great.
encapsulated it so well.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm so jazzed, and there's probably plenty of, I hate it, I'm going to say this, but probably plenty of women out there who they're like, husband, good, get this crap together, get it organized so everyone knows what's going on and we don't have to count it again.
Well, one funny side note of that is we've actually had a user who said his wife got mad that he joined because she was convinced that he was inventorying things so that he could sell her stuff. So there is probably another side of this you got to manage. But
and that's the social media part we don't go into.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. David,
Thank
you
you
so
very
much for
much.
your time. I really
I
appreciate it. Enjoy the
appreciate
rest
it.
of South by.
Thank you. Appreciate
okay.
it.
You're watching Web 2.0.tv, and we'll be back in just a bit.